He walked into the hospital expecting a business meeting, not a child calling him dad. Ethan Cole froze as a little girl with his exact eyes clutched his leg and begged him not to leave. The nurse whispered that her mother, the woman he once loved and walked away from, without closure, was fighting for her life in the ICU. Ethan tried to deny it, but the child's face made it impossible. How could he have a daughter he never knew existed? And why did destiny bring him here now, when he might already be too late to fix anything? Ethan Cole never believed in fate. He believed in deadlines, negotiations, and billion-dollar deals. The safe, predictable world he controlled. Feelings, emotions, attachments, those were things he had learned to shut out years ago, especially after her. That morning, Ethan stepped into St. Mary's Hospital with the confidence of a CEO who was used to owning every room he walked into. His assistant had called him urgently, saying the board meeting with the hospital's finance department had been moved up. Annoying, but manageable. He had no idea that meeting numbers would be the least important moment of his day. Walking through the lobby, he felt the familiar buzz of his phone. Emails, contracts, investors, life as usual. Then a soft cry. A tiny voice. A tug on his pant leg. Ethan turned sharply. A little girl no older than 4 stood beside him, clutching a small stuffed rabbit and staring up at him with tear-filled hazel eyes. The same hazel eyes he'd seen once before. The same eyes he had tried to forget. Daddy, she whispered. The word punched the air out of his lungs. Sweetheart, I think you're mistaken, Ethan said stiffly, stepping back. He didn't do kids. He didn't do emotions. And he definitely wasn't anyone's dad. But the girl followed him, gripping his leg tighter as her lip trembled. Please don't leave again. Mommy said you were gone, but I knew you'd come back. His heartbeat hammered in his ears. He knelt slowly. What's your name? Aurora, she sniffed. Mommy calls me Rory. Rory. Just hearing the name twisted something deep inside him. She looked exactly like Nona. Impossible. Before Ethan could speak, a nurse rushed toward them, breathless. Oh, thank God, I've been looking everywhere for her. She scooped the girl into her arms gently. Aurora, sweetheart, you can't run off like that. Your mommy needs you. Rory buried her face against the nurse's shoulder, still staring at Ethan as if she knew him. He forced a breath. There seems to be a misunderstanding. She thought I was the nurse, gave him a strange look. I'm sorry, sir. She gets confused sometimes. Her mother is under a lot of stress. Where's her father? Ethan asked quickly. The nurse hesitated. Her silence was louder than words. She doesn't have one on record, she finally said, adjusting Rory's blanket. Now if you'll excuse me, Aurora, we have to get you back to the ICU. ICU. The word hit him like a cold wind. What's wrong with her mother? Ethan asked before he could stop himself. She collapsed this morning. Severe complications. It's not looking good. Ethan stiffened. A strange, irrational fear crept through him. He didn't know this woman. He didn't know this child. This wasn't his problem, and yet he found himself following them down the hallway. He told himself it was curiosity. He told himself it was concern for the child. He told himself it had nothing, absolutely nothing to do with the woman who haunted his past. But every step closer to the ICU felt like he was walking straight into a memory he'd buried. The nurse pushed open a door. Ethan froze in the doorway. Machines beeped. Nurses moved quickly. And on the bed, Lena Harper. The woman he once loved fiercely. The woman he walked away from without a goodbye. The woman he told himself he'd outgrown. She looked pale, fragile, nothing like the fiery, stubborn girl who used to challenge him, laugh with him, and make him feel things he wasn't ready to feel. Her hair, once long and sun-kissed, was messy and damp with sweat. Her breathing was shallow. Her hand trembled weakly beside the blanket. And next to her bedtime table, a small framed ultrasound photo. He blinked. No. Is she going to be okay? Rory asked the nurse, eyes wide with fear. We're doing everything we can. Sweetheart, the nurse whispered, stroking her hair. Ethan felt his chest tighten painfully. Lena. He hadn't seen her in 5 years. He had told himself she'd moved on. He had told himself their brief, intense relationship meant nothing. But standing here now, all those lies unraveled. Suddenly, Lena stirred. Her eyes opened, slightly glazed, weak, barely conscious. Her gaze drifted, landed on Rory, then shifted, straight to Ethan. Her lips parted in shock. Her breathing hitched. Ethan, she whispered, hearing her say his name again. It felt like the world tilted. He took one step inside the room. You can't be here, she breathed, tears gathering in her eyes. Not now. He swallowed. Lena, what happened to you? She looked away, pain flickering across her face. Life happened. Rory slipped from the nurse's arms and climbed onto the bed carefully, curling up beside her mother. Mommy, he came back, she whispered. Lena squeezed her daughter weakly, her voice cracking. Baby, he didn't come for us. The words hit Ethan like a slap. Lena, I didn't, please leave, she whispered, shutting her eyes. This isn't your place. Ethan stood frozen. He should leave. He should walk out and pretend none of this mattered. That was what he had always done. But something in him, something old, something buried, refused to move. He stepped closer. Lena, he said softly. Who is the father? The room fell silent. Lena's eyes opened, filled with agony. Rory looked up at him with the innocence of truth. The nurse quietly stepped outside, giving them space. Lena's voice broke as she whispered, ask yourself, Ethan, why does she have your eyes? His heart stopped. Ethan felt the air drain from his lungs as Lena's words settled into the room. Like a quiet explosion. Why does she have your eyes? The beeping of the monitors suddenly felt louder. The scent of antiseptic burned his nose. The walls felt too close, too bright, too sharp. He stared at the little girl curled against Lena's side. Hazel eyes, soft features, a tiny dimple he remembered from his own childhood photos. Every piece of her, every detail screamed truth. Lena. Ethan's voice cracked, something that surprised even him. Why didn't you tell me? She closed her eyes slowly, as if even the weight of his question was too heavy for her fragile body to hold. When would you have cared? She whispered. Ethan flinched. Hard. I would have. No. She cut in weakly, turning her face away. You wouldn't have. You left. Ethan, not with a fight, not with a reason, not even with a goodbye. The words hit him like a cold blade slicing through old memories. He flashed back to the night he walked away. The promotion offer, the pressure, the fear that he was turning into someone soft, someone vulnerable, someone who needed her too much. He thought leaving her would make life easier. It didn't, it just buried a guilt he never dared to face until now. Rory tugged lightly at Lena's sleeve. Mommy, does it hurt? She asked in a tiny voice. Lena stroked her daughter's hair, giving her a fragile smile. It's okay, baby. Mommy's just tired. Something deep inside Ethan twisted. The sight of Rory leaning into her mother, trying to be brave, too brave for a child her age, made his chest ache. Lena, he said again, more firmly this time. You had a daughter. My daughter. And you didn't think I deserved to know? Lena let out a shaky breath. Deserve? She laughed softly, bitterly. Ethan, you made it very clear I didn't deserve anything from you. Not answers. Not closure. Not love. The room blurred for a moment as Ethan tried to process it all. She had done this alone. Pregnancy, birth, raising a child, hospital emergencies. All alone, and he didn't even know her birthday anymore. His throat tightened. Lena, why did you never reach out? Not even once. Her voice trembled. Because I spent years convincing myself you didn't want us. That I was nothing more than a mistake you were escaping from. Rory looked between them, her brows furrowed in confusion. Mommy, is he bad? The question sliced straight through Ethan's chest. Lena's eyes softened, pained. No, baby. He's not bad. He just left before he knew you existed. Rory blinked up at him. You didn't know about me. Ethan crouched down, leveling his eyes with hers. He felt the weight of truth, heavy and humbling. No, he said gently. I didn't know. Not until today. Rory studied him with far too much seriousness for a child. Then, surprisingly, she reached out and touched his face with small, trembling fingers. You look like me, she whispered. He swallowed hard. Yeah, I guess I do. Lena turned her head away, tears sliding down her temple onto the pillow. A doctor entered quietly, clipboard in hand. Ms. Harper, we need to run another scan. Your vitals are unstable. Rory clung to her mother tightly, refusing to move. No, I'm staying. Ethan instinctively stepped closer. Rory, let the doctors help. She glared at him, tears gathering. You don't get to tell me what to do. You're not? Lena's voice broke. Aurora, please, baby, go with the nurse. Just for a little bit. Trembling, the little girl let the nurse take her hand. She looked back once right at Ethan before disappearing down the hallway. And suddenly, it was just the two of them. Ethan and Lena, the past and the present, colliding in a sterile hospital room. She exhaled shakily, staring at the ceiling as if looking anywhere but at him was easier. Please don't pretend you care now. He stared at her for a long moment. I'm not pretending. You're here because of a meeting, she whispered, not because of us. Maybe I was, Ethan admitted, his voice low, but I'm staying because of you. Her eyes flickered, but she stayed silent. He stepped closer. Lena, I didn't leave because I didn't care. His voice cracked. I left because I cared too much. I was becoming someone, vulnerable, and that scared the hell out of me. A single tear slipped down her cheek. Fear doesn't excuse abandonment. No, it doesn't, he whispered. But I'm here now, and I'm not walking away again. She finally looked at him. Exhaustion etched across every feature. Ethan, I might not get better. The doctors aren't sure. Don't say that, he snapped, his control finally slipping. You're not allowed to say that. She almost smiled. Still bossy, still stubborn, he shot back. Silence settled between them, thick, painful, familiar. Lena's voice softened. Ethan, if something happens to me, Rory needs someone. Someone strong, someone stable. Ethan's breath hitched. Lena, she needs a parent, she said quietly, and you're all she has. Won't let anything happen to you, he whispered, fiercely. You can't promise. That. I can promise I won't leave again. Her eyes glistened with tears. You already left. Once, she murmured. What if Rory grows up thinking you'll leave her too? He stepped closer, hands trembling. Then I'll spend the rest of my life proving her wrong. Lena let out a breath, half sob, half relief as the doctor motioned for her to be taken for the scan. Before they wheeled her out, she grabbed Ethan's hand. Her grip was weak, but meaningful. Don't let her be alone, she whispered, his heart clenched. She won't be, I swear it. As they pushed her bed toward the hallway, Ethan stood frozen, watching her disappear. His past, his regrets, his mistakes, all rolled into one fragile woman fighting for her life. And somewhere down the hall, a daughter who didn't trust him yet. Ethan inhaled deeply. He didn't know how to be a father. He didn't know how to fix the damage he'd caused. He didn't know if Lena would survive. But he did know one thing. For the first time in his life, he wasn't running, he was staying, no matter what. The hallway outside the ICU felt colder than the rest of the hospital. The walls buzzed with fluorescent light, but Ethan felt like he was standing in the dark, overwhelmed, and utterly unprepared. Somewhere down this corridor was a little girl who thought he abandoned her before she even understood the word. A little girl who had no one else. He walked slowly, until he spotted her in the small waiting area, knees pulled to her chest, hugging the stuffed rabbit like it was her whole world. The nurse sat beside her, speaking softly, but Rory wasn't listening. Her big hazel eyes were locked on the floor. Ethan approached carefully. The nurse rose and whispered. She hasn't spoken since her mother went in for tests. She's terrified. Ethan nodded, throat tight. I'll stay with her. The nurse hesitated, then gently touched Rory's shoulder. Sweetheart, someone wants to see you. Rory lifted her head. When she saw Ethan, her expression hardened instantly. She hugged her rabbit tighter. I don't want you, she said quietly. I want mommy. Ethan felt the words pierce him, but he forced a steady breath. I know, he said softly, and I'm not trying to replace her. I just want to sit with you. She looked away. You're a stranger. I know, he whispered, but I don't want to be. Rory didn't answer. He slowly sat in the chair beside her, not too close, not too far, and let the silence settle. He had negotiated billion-dollar deals, calmed panicked investors, argued with board members, but nothing felt as fragile as this moment with a 4-year-old who didn't trust him. Minutes passed. Rory sniffed quietly, rubbing her eyes with the sleeve of her tiny sweater. Ethan finally spoke. I didn't know your mommy was hurt. She didn't look up. And I didn't know you existed, he continued. If I had, I would have looked for you. Her shoulders tensed. You're lying, she whispered. Ethan swallowed hard. I'm not. She turned to him slowly, eyes glassy. Mommy said you left because you didn't want us. His heart crumbled. I left before I knew, he said, voice breaking. And leaving was the biggest mistake of my life. Rory stared at him, searching, studying, reading every inch of his face with a seriousness far beyond her age. Then she asked the question he feared most. Are you going to leave again? Ethan leaned forward, elbows on his knees, head bowed. No, he said firmly. Not ever. She blinked, uncertain. People always say things they don't mean. He let out a breath, slow, pained. You're right, he whispered, but I won't be one of those people. She looked away again, but her breathing steadied just a little. A small step, but a step. After a long silence, Rory pointed at the vending machine across the hall. Mommy never lets me have chocolate, she murmured, but I want chocolate. Ethan almost smiled. I think today is a special day. He stood, guiding her gently. She held his finger, not his whole hand. Not yet, but even that small touch flooded his chest with warmth he didn't know he could feel. He bought her a chocolate bar, but when he handed it to her, she didn't eat it. Instead, she held it tightly against her chest. Mommy likes chocolate too. I'm saving half for her. Ethan felt his throat close. You're a good daughter, he whispered. She shrugged. I try. He sat beside her again as she quietly unwrapped the bar. She broke it perfectly down the middle, placing one half carefully on a napkin. That's Mommy's piece, she said softly. She didn't ask him to share, but she didn't move away either. A small victory. Minutes stretched into an hour. Rory leaned against the chair, exhaustion pulling her eyelids down. Can I sit next to you? She asked, in a timid voice. Ethan nodded immediately. Of course. She climbed onto the seat beside him and curled into his arm cautiously, as if unsure whether he'd push her away. He didn't. He wrapped an arm around her, gently, terrified of doing it wrong, but even more terrified of not trying. Her tiny voice mumbled into his sleeve. You're warm. He let out a shaky exhale. So are you. Within minutes, her breathing slowed. She fell asleep against him, trusting him. Even if just for now. Ethan stared at her small hand resting on his wrist. His daughter. His blood. His mistake. His second chance. His heart felt full and broken at the same time. A doctor approached quietly. Mr. Cole. Ethan carefully shifted Rory, but didn't move his arm away from her sleeping body. Yes, we've finished Lena's scan. He braced himself. Her condition is complicated, the doctor said gently. We're preparing her for a possible emergency procedure. You may want to see her. Ethan's stomach twisted with dread. The doctor's eyes softened. She asked for you. The world stopped. Rory stirred slightly in his arms. Ethan brushed a strand of hair from her forehead. I promised her mother I wouldn't leave her alone, he whispered. The doctor nodded. You can bring Aurora with you. Ethan let out a breath he didn't realize he was holding. He cupped Rory's cheek gently. Rory, sweetheart, can you wake up? Mommy needs us. Her eyes fluttered open, confused and sleepy. Mommy, yes, Ethan said softly. She wants to see you. Rory rubbed her eyes and clutched his shirt, instinctively seeking comfort, support. Something solid to hold on to in a world that suddenly felt too big. For the first time, he didn't hesitate. He lifted her into his arms. Her small hands wrapped around his neck like she'd known how to hold him her whole life. He stood there for a moment, overwhelmed by the weight of her. Not heavy, not uncomfortable, just real. I'm scared, she whispered into his shoulder. Ethan kissed the top of her head without thinking. Me too, but we'll do this together. And then he walked his legs steady, his heart pounding back toward the ICU, back toward the woman he loved, back toward the family he never knew he had. And for the first time in years, Ethan Cole wasn't running from life, he was running to it. Ethan pushed open the ICU door, with Rory held safely in his arms. The room felt colder than before, quieter, as if even the machines sensed something fragile unfolding. Lena lay on the bed, pale, trembling, her breaths uneven, but when she saw Rory, her tired face softened instantly. Baby, she whispered, her voice thin, come here. Ethan gently lowered Rory beside her, but the little girl clutched his shirt tighter. Don't leave, she whispered. Ethan stayed right beside her, his hand on her back. I'm not going anywhere. Rory finally crawled carefully onto the bed and curled against her mother. Lena brushed her fingers through her daughter's hair, tears forming at the corners of her eyes. You're okay, Lena whispered. Mommy's right here. But Ethan could see the truth in the monitors, the doctor's worried glances, Lena's fading strength. She wasn't okay, not even close. He stepped closer. Lena, what did the scan show? Lena didn't answer right away. Instead, she looked at Rory, really looked, memorizing her tiny face like someone who didn't know how much time she had left. Finally, she exhaled shakily. There's internal bleeding. They're preparing for surgery, but the odds. Her voice cracked. The odds aren't good. Rory clung to her tighter. No, Mommy, please don't go. Ethan felt something inside him break. Lena, he said hoarsely, you're going to be okay. They're going to fix this. She shook her head weakly. Don't lie to me. Ethan, not now. He swallowed hard. I'm not lying. I need you to fight. I've been fighting alone for years, she whispered. I'm tired. Her words stabbed straight through him. He grabbed her hand, cold, trembling, to light and squeezed it fiercely. Then let me fight for you, he said. Let me be here. Let me finally do something right. She looked up at him, eyes full of hurt, and something else. Something that came from years of loving him in silence. I never wanted to hate you, she whispered. I just wanted you. Ethan felt tears gather. Something he had never let himself feel, not in boardrooms. Not in breakups, not even when his father died. But now he couldn't hold anything back. I'm sorry, he said, voice cracked and raw. I'm so damn sorry, Lena, for leaving, for not knowing, for missing everything. She tried to smile, but her lips trembled. You can't change the past. No, he whispered, but I can change everything now. Lena pressed a shaking hand to Rory's cheek. Sweetheart, you remember what Mommy told you about being brave? Rory nodded tearfully. I need you to be brave now. No, Rory sobbed. I want you. Ethan stepped closer, his voice gentle. Rory, sweetheart, the doctors will help Mommy. And I'm right here with you. Always. Rory looked at him with devastation in her eyes. What if she doesn't wake up? Ethan's breath caught. Lena let out a weak sob. Don't say that, baby. Rory curled into her mother again, clutching her as if her tiny arms could keep Lena alive. Doctors entered the room quietly. It's time, one of them said softly. Rory's body shook. No, don't take her. Ethan moved forward, picking Rory up carefully despite her fierce resistance. She screamed, kicked, sobbed, but he held her tight. No, she cried. Mommy, Mommy. Lena reached out, tears streaming as she touched Rory's cheek one last time. I love you, my angel. Rory sobbed harder. I love you too. Don't go. Ethan's heart shattered. Lena's eyes lifted to him. Take care of her, she whispered. Promise me. I promise, Ethan choked. I swear to you, she will never be alone again. Lena nodded weakly, tears slipping down her pale face. Tell her who she is. Tell her she's loved. I will. And Ethan, she whispered. Yes. Don't run from love again. He bent down and kissed her forehead gently. Never again. The doctors began to move her bed. Rory screamed as they pulled her mother away, reaching out desperately. Ethan held her tightly, whispering, she's strong. She's fighting. We're right here. But inside, he was terrified. They watched through the glass as Lena was wheeled toward the operating room. Rory's sobs slowly weakened, turning into quiet, heartbreaking whimpers as she buried her face into Ethan's chest. Is she going to die? She whispered. Ethan squeezed her gently. I won't let that happen. But what if you can't stop it? He closed his eyes, voice trembling. Then I'll make sure you never lose anything else. She leaned her head against him, exhausted from crying. Her tiny fingers held tightly onto his shirt, trusting him without even realizing it. Hours passed. Rory eventually fell asleep in his arms, her breathing shaky, fingers still curled into his collar. Ethan didn't move, not an inch, not even when his phone buzzed with calls, emails, and alerts from his corporate world. None of that mattered now. He was a father, and maybe, still a man who loved Lena. When the surgeon finally stepped out of the operating room, Ethan's heart nearly stopped. The doctor approached them slowly. Rory stirred in his arms. Mommy? The doctor sighed. She made it through the surgery. It was complicated, but she's stable. Rory gasped and then burst into tears of relief, clutching Ethan even tighter. Ethan closed his eyes, letting out a breath he felt like he'd been holding for hours. Can we see her? He whispered. In a few minutes, the doctor said. She's asking for both of you. Rory wiped her tears with her tiny hands, hope flooding her face. She woke up. Yes. The doctor smiled. She's asking for her family. Family. Ethan had never thought that word belonged to him. Not until today. Minutes later, they entered Lena's room. She looked exhausted, pale, but alive. So alive. Rory rushed to her side, and Lena gathered her into her arms with all the strength she had. Then Lena looked up at Ethan, her eyes weak but warm held his. You stayed, she whispered. He stepped closer, brushing a strand of hair from her forehead. I told you I wouldn't leave again. She exhaled shakily, emotion flooding her face. For the first time, she murmured, I believe you. Ethan took her hand, one small, fragile hand, and pressed it gently to Rory's, and for the first time, they were a family. If this story touched your heart, don't leave without supporting the channel. Hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell icon so you never miss the next emotional journey. And tell me in the comments, what would you do in this situation?